I'm Sam Luce, here with iZotope. In this video, we're taking a look at dynamic EQ and seeing how an understanding of this concept can help you achieve clearer mixes with more control over the frequency content of your mix. Dynamic EQ is similar to regular EQ, but it gives us more control over the frequency bands that we are affecting. We can affect the tone of a track based on its own frequency content, or sidechain in another track, so we're only applying these EQ moves when another signal is present. Make sure to get your free trial of Music Production Suite Pro now and open up Neutron Pro in your DAW to follow along. Hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we upload something new, and let's jump straight in. A classic example of dynamic EQ is the de-esser, often used on vocals. But this kind of frequency-specific dynamics processing has its uses on other instruments too. Take a listen to this bass guitar that has a harsh pick attack that's a bit too prominent. We can use dynamic EQ to zone in on the problematic area and apply an EQ cut. The beauty of dynamic EQ is that the cut will only take effect when the audio passes the set threshold, so we are able to retain the overall brightness of the instrument and just correct the area that is an issue. Let's use band solo for this. We can turn the band into dynamic mode here. Then if needed, we can always add a touch more top end to retain some of that brightness. This track has a prominent lead vocal, as well as hi-hats that are really helping carry the groove. An instrument like a hi-hat has a lot of high-end information that can get in the way of the vocal and mask it if not treated properly. Let's feed the lead vocal into the sidechain input of the hi-hat bus and duck some of those high frequencies out of the way when the vocal is present, so there's nothing in the way of it being heard loud and clear. We can apply this sidechain technique in another classic example where two instruments occupy the same area of the frequency spectrum, the kick and the bass guitar. Here, we are able to achieve an effect similar to sidechain compression, but focus more on making space for the instruments to be heard, as opposed to the typical pumping effect you would normally associate with the sidechain compression technique. Let's duck the low end of the bass guitar, but only when the kick drum is present in the sidechain, so the kick can be heard and allowed to punch through momentarily. Listen how the bass guitar gets out of the way and just allows the kick drum to fill the bottom end of the track. Dynamic EQ can also get you out of a tight spot at the mastering stage. For the purpose of this, let's imagine that we're mastering our track and don't have the option to go back to the mix.
the snare is poking out the song just a bit too much. We can use Ozone's band solo function to zone in on the resonant frequency of the snare and bring it down without affecting any of the other instruments in the mix. We can then tailor the threshold to make sure we're only affecting the snare and leave the rest of the track untouched.
Understanding dynamic EQ and how to use it in your track is such a great tool to have when mixing. Using the dynamic EQ and frequency masking features built into Neutron Pro, you can make sure you're creating a mix where everything has its own place and instruments aren't fighting for space to be heard. Make sure to get your free trial of Music Production Suite Pro now at iZotope.com and check out the rest of the educational content across the site. I'm Sam Luce, thanks so much for watching. Take care.